that you put in way too much salt. Oh, so see, it's connected. We're having connection problems. We're on Lamed Daled Lamed Aleph at the gemorah. So what does it mean? If you refuse too much, it's like you cooked it with salt, too much salt, you burnt it, you put in too much salt, you ruined it. So what does it mean? Ketzad. How should you do it exactly? Ketzad do I say parmeshaina yisaref. First time you say, hey, Rabbi, do you want to go to daven? Say, no, I'm not worthy. Shniya mahaviv. The second time, la mahaviv, like the light is mahaviv, it flashes. Maybe, I don't know. You start getting up, but I don't want to do it. Shlishis, precious as ragla v'yered. If they ask you the third time, go and what's it called? Go to the Amud. So that's what you should do. If they say you should daven for the Amud, you should say no. First time, no. Second time, they say no, go daven. So you should say, I don't know, yeah, no, I'm not sure. Third time they say you should daven. So what's wrong with being Mesarev? So if you go straight away, it looks like you want the Amud, you're Roy, I'm the man, it's Gaifa. What's wrong with being such an honor of saying no, and being Mesarev? So what the Mefarshim explain is, the reason why you're Mesarev, you say I'm not worthy, right? But if they say, David, no, we want you to daven, So you're showing, the Achronim say, it's like you're showing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't listen to the tefillahs, even if someone that's a Rasha, even someone that's not Roy. And Hashem is Shemeh tefillahs everyone. Hashem is everyone's tefillah. You don't have to be some big Rebbe or some tzaddik to be about tefillah. Anyone could be about tefillah, really. Hashem is everyone's tefillah. But if you say, I'm not Roy, I can't daven, I'm davening, you look like Ki'ilu Kavyachu, you don't believe that Hashem listens to everyone's prayer. It's like a pigi in the cover of Hashem. Okay, that's the pshat they say. Keitzu I say. Sorry. Tanu Rabbanon. Our rabbis taught us, Shleisha, there's three things. Ruban kosher, a lot of it is bad. Umiyotan, a little bit is good. Yofeh. Ve'elohen, these are the three things. Sa'or, yeast, umelach, salt, v'sarvonos, and refusing to daven for the Amud. So three things, and they explain that there's another somewhere of 8 things, but these 3 things, a tiny bit is good. Salt, sarvonos, to be misav, a little bit, tiny bit. But it's interesting. So why is a little bit of salt good, and a lot of salt's bad? So l'chayra, Chazal are telling us that a little bit of salt, it's pasha, makes something tasty. You put in tons of salt, you can't eat it, it's inedible. Right? You ruin the whole thing. Maybe it's coming from a health perspective, I don't know, that a lot of salt's unhealthy. A person needs salt to live. You need salt. Without your electrolytes, finito. But a lot of salt is deadly. It's not healthy. It's poisonous. So, the Gemara is telling us, a little bit, a lot, sarvonos, yeast also, a similar idea. A little bit makes it rise. Too much yeast is going to ruin the whole thing. And sarvonos, a little bit, be Mesarev once, I don't want to do it, but if you Mesarev, the whole time you Mesarev, no good. It looks like gaiva, it looks like whatever it is. It's extra gaiva. In other words, they say also, another pshat why you shouldn't be Mesarev more than 3 times. It looks like, I've got a share, I'm so choshev that you got to ask me 10 times, then I'll daven. You ask me 3 times, it's not enough. You got to push me, you got to really ask me again and again and again, then I'll daven. That's also gaiva. Don't drive the poor guy crazy. He wants you done for the Amud, go daven, right? There's no one else. I made a cheshbon that there's always another 9 people in shul whenever they ask me, right? So I never have to know. Okay, it says the gemorah. Now we're getting to a major halachic issue over here. Amar Funa, Nusaya, Ta b'shalosh shaynos. You make a mistake when you're praying Shemoneh Esrei in the first 3 brachas. What should you do? Chayzel Reish. You go back to the beginning. Oh, Shalom Joe. If you made a mistake in the first 3, go back to the beginning. If you made a mistake in the middle 13, you go back to the first to the beginning of the 13. The first bracha, that's where you go back. If you made a mistake in the last 3, in what's called you go to Avodah Ritzei. Avodah is Ritzei, you go back to the beginning of the 3. So in other words, there's 3 different sections. The first 3, the last 3, and the middle 13. If you made a mistake in any of them, you always go back to the beginning of that section. Right? That's what he's saying. Ravasi says, if you made a mistake in the middle 13, you don't go back to the beginning of the 13 brachas. It doesn't matter, there's no seder, there's no order. So if you made a mistake in Baruch Aleinu, then you said, you made a mistake in Rafeinu, then you got to Baruch Aleinu, you made a mistake, you could just fix it right then and there. Or you put it in the wrong order. You don't have to go back to the beginning, because you could just do the one you botched right now. You don't have to go back to the beginning. You can, if you missed one, you made a mistake in one, you could just fill that in now. You got to the end of you got to Shema Aleinu, then you remembered, I made a mistake in Atachainen. You don't have to go back to the beginning, you just say Atachainen, and you're good. You don't have to do 13 in any specific order. Right, we're on Lamed Daled, Amud Aleph, halfway down.
Lamed Daled?
Amud Aleph, halfway down the page. So the question is what type of mistake are we talking about over here? Says the Meiri, we're talking about a mistake. Let's say you said Baruch Aleinu, Hashem Elokeinu, you said Baruch Aleinu, and then for the bracha, you said Baruch Hashem Shemei Tzvili. You made the wrong bracha at the end. You're like, oh, I said the wrong bracha. So what'd you do? You go back to the beginning. V'atachainen. According to the first shita. According to the second shita, you just say Baruch Aleinu again. You don't have to go back to the beginning. Another pshat is you skipped. I was in a shul once, and the guy he said Kedusha, then he skipped like Atachainen. He went straight to the next one, Ashivenu. And Atachainen. So what'd you do? Just say it right then and there. It's a machlekes. Do you have to go back to the beginning? Or do you go back to... So what turns out from it, this sugya here is going to explain the shirish of this complicated thing. What do you do when you forget to say Baruch Mashiv Baruch the Geshem, or in Baruch Aleinu you forget to say the same Talamatar? This is with the shirish of that sugya. And instead of having to remember a whole bunch of dinim, you could just remember this. That if you made a mistake within the first 3, you got to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei. Right? No one argues with that. So if you didn't say Zachayin Chaim, you missed the thing you got to add. You didn't say Mashiv Rachamay the Geshem. What you do? You can't go back to Machayim Mesim. You got to go back to the beginning. You blew it in the first 3. You got to go back to the beginning. If you made a mistake in the last 3, you go back to the Ritzei. So let's say you forget to say Yalav Yavai on Rosh Chodesh, on whatever it is. So you go back to Ritzei. That's what the Gemara says. You go back to Ritzei, right?
But you've already come to a second bracha.
So yeah. So if you forget to say Yalav Yavai and you say Baruch Atah Hashem Atay Shimcha Lechon Elohis, and you're like, oh, I forgot to say Yalav Yavai. You go back to Ritzei.
The thing is, the first 3 brachas are the Iker. The first 3 brachas are the Iker, and that's where you go back.
But also the last 3. If you missed something in the last 3, you made a mistake. So what do? You also have to go back to the beginning to the Ritzei, right? Sometimes you could squeeze in Yalav Yavai, the place to say before Maidim, even after you said V'sechazena, but that's not the shaila over here. You missed it. You botched it up. You forgot to say the bracha. You go back to Ritzei. What about if you forget to say in the middle of you forget to say the same bracha? You said the same Talmud bracha instead of the same bracha. You go back to the beginning of that bracha. That's what he says. You go back to the bracha that you made a mistake in.
That makes sense.
And from there you carry on. We don't pass like the shita that says you can just throw it in at the end, Baruch Aleinu. You got to go back to Baruch Aleinu, the bracha you botched up, then you carry on from there. Now, if you forget to say the same Talamatar, you're asking for rain. You don't have to ask for rain right then and there. You can ask for rain, Mr. Burr says, in Shema Aleinu, or you can ask for rain before you get to after Sim Shalom, before you step back. So you can always ask for rain, and that way you fix the same Talamatar. But if in the days where you're supposed to ask the same bracha, you said Mashav Aruach, you said the same Talamatar, you asked for rain, and that's a klala, so you botched up the bracha, now you got to go back. That's the whole halacha, all the shilas in a nutshell, that explains everything more or less. So it says in gemorah, so that's the machlekes. Do you go back to the way you stopped, or do you go back to the beginning, Atachainen, right? Let's see this again. So Says Ravasi, the middle brachas, there's no seder. If you botched Baruch Aleinu, just stick it in at the end after Shema Aleinu, right? So Maser Rav Sheshes says, Asakasha, Meichenu Chayzer, it says, where'd you go back to? Metchilas bracha sheta. And that you to the Dorfona. It says in the Bryce, where'd you go back to? You go back to the bracha you made a mistake in.
Why is this chiddush?
And that's a kasha on Rafuna. Rafuna says you go back to the beginning.
The beginning of
At the Chainin. You go back to the beginning of the 13 middle brachas. And this Brisa says you go back to where you made a mistake. Now, I see you looking like what's going on up there. There is a machlokes in Girsos. Is it that it's a kasha also on Ravasi because he says, in other words, it's a kasha on both. He says you go back to in other words, the machlokes of Ravuna and Ravasi, is do you go back to Atachainain, right? Or can you stick Atachainain at the end?
No.
Or can you stick the mistake at the end? That no one says, neither of them say, go back to where you made the mistake and carry on from there, like we do.
The difference is that the middle, each set of the middle brachas are self-contained brachas.
Right.
But the first three, the last three are not.
So the Mefarshim explained that why would you go back to Atachainain? According to Rav Huna, you go back to the beginning of the 13. You go back to Atachainain. You made a mistake in Baruch Aleinu, go back to Atachainain. Why? We're going to see the Gemara says because it's all one bracha. The Gemara is going to say that. It's all one long bracha. It's 13 brachas, but it's all considered one thing. So you botched it up in the middle, go back to the beginning. Right? Big nafkamina, for example, in Yom Noraim. The place will speak about it here. Yom Noraim, guy makes a mistake or guy's tired, he's weak, he's in the fast, in the middle of the Shemoneh Esrei. So what you do, you carry on from right there, and you go back to the beginning, at the B'chatanu. Or what do you say in Yom Noraim? You say the same Pachtacha, right? So where'd you go back to? What do you do? What do you say? Big Shaila. So over here, we got a machlokes. Do you go back?
Why is that any more of a bigger Shaila than Shabbos, let's say?
Shabbos, same Shaila, yeah. Same thing on Shabbos. What do you do on Shabbos? So do you go back to Atachayin to the beginning of the middle, the beginning of the 13, or do you just stick the one you made a mistake in at the end?
Well, on Shabbos,
right?
there's no Atachayin.
So then you'll go. So you'll do Yismach Moshe, right? You go back to Yismach. The Mefarshim explains. So on Shabbos you go back to Yismach Moshe, or to Kata Shabbos. You don't have to go back to. It's all one bracha. You have to go to the beginning of the bracha, and that's what's called the beginning of the bracha. Is Yismach Moshe.
That's one bracha. That's not 13.
Right. But you have to go back to the beginning of that bracha. So on Shabbos it's less of a shaila. In the rhyme where there's 4 brachas in the middle or whatever it is. So which one? Do you go back to the beginning of the 4, or just the bracha you made a mistake in? Okay. So says the Gemara.
Well, one second, but I'm not right. Is part of the third bracha. It's part of.
I'm talking about after kedusha. You say whatever the bracha after Melech HaKodesh. Atav Chaton. You say Atav Chaton. Sorry, Atav Chaton.
No, Atav Chaton.
Right. Yeah, you do Atav Chaton. So says Gemara. So Tiyufta the Rafuna, it's a kasha Rafuna. Why would you go back to the bracha you made a mistake? Why do you go back to Baruch Aleinu? Rafuna says you got to go back to Atachainain. This Bryce says you go back to Baruch Aleinu if you made a mistake. The Bryce says you go back to. Rafuna says you go back to Atachainain. Amalach Rafuna says the middle 13 kulay chada birchas aninu. It's all one bracha. Okay. Amar of Yehuda says of Yehuda la'ilum al yishal adam tzach of lei b'shal shashaynais v'lei b'shal shachonis. You shouldn't ask for your needs. You need something. You need a new car. You need a better seat in shul. Don't ask in the first 3 and not in the last 3. When should you ask? In the 13, right? Lei b'shal shashaynais v'lei b'shal shachonis. Ella b'emtzayes. Ask in the middle. Amar of Chanina. The first 3 brachas, it's like a slave comes into his master and he starts praising him. You're so great, you're so kind, you're so amazing. The middle 13 is like someone comes in and asks his master, okay, I need this, I need a new car, I need food, I need clothing. The last three is like you got the pras, your master gives you what you need, and you leave and you say thank you, thank you, thank you. That's a seder tefillah. You always have to be mishabeach, then you ask, and we saw before that even if you're not davening Shemoneh Esrei, even if you're waiting for the bus, you shouldn't just say Hashem, please send me the bus. You should say Hashem, you're so great, send me the bus. Thank you. When the bus comes, right? You should always do it in that seder, not just in Shemoneh Esrei. So I hear all of you asking, so why do we say in Shemoneh Esrei and Yom Noraim, why do we ask in the first three on Yom Noraim, the high holy days, we do ask for these things. So what's pshat? So the answer is, what the Mepharshim will say, is that if it's your own bakasha, your own need, don't ask in the first three. But if it's Tzarchei Rabim, if it's for the community, then you're allowed to. Why? Not because it's more important, but because when you ask for the community's needs, that itself is a praise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That itself means like, when someone comes over to me and says, Chaim, we need you to sponsor a new building, right? We need you to sponsor the Kiddush, more likely. So I feel good. It's like a praise to me. It's like, oh, you need me? That itself is a praise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? That's why it's, but if someone comes over to you and says to you, can you help me fix my tire, or I got a flat tire, I don't feel like, wow, I'm so honored that you asked me to fix your tire, right? But when they come to ask for the community, it's like, the community needs me. That's a good thing. A certain student, they went to daven, b'fnei Rebbe Eliezer, in front of the great Rebbe Eliezer, the Tana Rebbe Eliezer, and he schlepped, he dragged. We've all been to such a shul where the chazan's dragging out. The student said, Rabbeinu, Kamarkan says, so the Talmud said, look, wow, Rebbe, look what this guy's really dragging his feet, he's really schlepping. So what did Rebbe Eliezer say? He's not dragging, he's not taking anywhere near as long as Moshe Rabbeinu did, right? The Chsiv Bey, with Moshe, es Abai Mayayim, es Abai Malayla, Moshe prayed for Klal Yisrael 40 days and 40 nights straight. 40 days, 40 nights. So this guy's taking out 10 minutes, go easy. Yeah, what?
Yeah, but that was like Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't schlepping anybody along with that, though. That was his, nobody was...
There's no tikkun tzibura. Good kasha. Good kasha, good kasha. Very good kasha, I don't know.
Okay.
Shuv, another story happened. Maisa b'Talmud, echad, shior stei teva, b'fnei Rebbe Eliezer. Another guy went to daven before Rebbe Eliezer. So what happened? This guy was really quick. He was really short. So what happens? Amalei Talmidav v'makatzasa huzeh. Kamakatzin huzeh. The Talmidim said, look how much this guy's, cutting corners. He's really flying. Hey, that's no good. This guy's way too fast. Amalei kum makatzi yesem Moshe Rabbeinu. He said back to them, there was no one that davened shorter than Moshe Rabbeinu. The Chsiv, when Moshe Rabbeinu's sister got tzaras, she got the leprosy, what did Moshe say? He said 5 words, Kel na, Rafana la. Please Hashem, heal her. 5 words and she was healed. So you don't have to drag, you don't have to schlep, you don't have what's called. So why did Moshe daven such a quick tefillah for his sister? So let's just read one more line in the gemorah. Amar of Yaakov, Amar of Chista. Anyone who asks for compassion from heaven on his friend, you don't have to repeat the guy's name. You don't have to say, please be Marapad, Yankel ben Yankel, right? Why? Shenema, Moshe said, Kelna, please God, Rafana Allah, heal her, now. He just said, please Hashem, heal her. So you see from here that when you daven for someone, you do not need to mention their name. It's enough to just say, Hashem, please heal my... Hashem knows who you're talking about. So before we discuss this issue of mentioning the guy's name, right? Why did Moshe do such a short tefillah for his sister? And 40 days he was praying for Klal Yisrael. The Klal Yisrael shouldn't say, look at this guy, for his sister, protects you. He davened for her for, 2 weeks, 2 days, he spent 3 hours davening for her. So he gave the shortest tefillah shayach for his sister. That's it, that's all he said for her. Fascinating gemorah. But for Klal Yisrael, 40 days, 40 nights. That's a true leader, someone that for his own family He didn't want them to think for a second he's showing them favoritism. So what's the din? Why should you not mention the guy's name? Is it also to mention his name? It seems to be a little bit of a machlokes. Is it also to mention the chayla's name, or just you don't need to? Why shouldn't you mention the name? So apparently the Mekubalim say, they give an explanation that if you mention the guy's name, so all the Mekachagim and Shemayim, all the evil angels, they see, oh, you're praying for that guy? He's a bad dude. He's got plenty of affairs. They start being worried the din on him. That's why if you just, Hashem knows what you're thinking about. So you daven to Hashem, you say, Hashem, please heal my friend, right? He knows. You don't have to go ahead and say the name. That way, there's no midas din. It's just rachamim. You know, Meir any din. Something will arrive from here also that you shouldn't say, please heal the chayla. You shouldn't say that someone's a chayla. It's like you're giving him a psak. You're paskening that he's sick. Just say, please give him brias. Some Farshim say, if you're davening for shefa for someone, you're not praying for someone should be healed. You're praying that someone should have siyat d'shmaya, tzlacha, help, and happiness and wealth. Then you should mention his name. But if you're trying to get him out of a bad situation, then you should mention his name. Some go ahead and say that when should you not mention his name? When you say, that's only if the guy's in front of you. If the chayla is in front, then you don't have to mention his name. But if he's not in front of you, then you should mention his name. So Chasam Sofer won't say that's why you're supposed to be muvaka chayla, that you're in front of him, you can pray for him. It says if you're muvaka chayla, you make him better because you're able to daven for him, he says, but without mentioning his name. So you only get midas harachamim, compassion, without any judgment. That's how the Chasam Sofer seems to understand that it's better. And some places say dafka if it's before you don't need to mention his name. The Mashmois in the pasuk with Moshe Rabbeinu, he said kel norafon Allah. She wasn't in front of him. That's the Mashmois of the pasuk. She wasn't in front of him. He said kel norafon Allah, and she was healed. Some say, look, you can daven a short tefillah, but that's because Moshe Rabbeinu knew that straight away he was answered. But if you don't know your answer straight away, so why are you stopping? Okay, I think we're going to have to end here today. Slightly early, sorry, but yeah, we're at the 2 dots. Okay, have a wonderful day. Shkoyach.